Hi, this is Mary from The Daily Sew. A few months ago, I put out a video of how to hem dress pants. And a lot of people asked, I said, that's great, but can I do this by machine? Yeah, but I haven't tried. Well, thank you for asking because it forced me to learn the machine blind stitch, which is both easy and hard. But once I got it, it hemmed so fast with results that look just like a hand-sewn hem. So if you're ready to hem invisibly by machine, let's go. In today's clothes, we commonly see a top-stitched hem like this. This hem is not top-stitch, it's invisible on the outside. The top-stitch hem is folded and sewn with a straight stitch. This hem is also folded and sewn, not by hand as is typical for this type of hem, but with a machine blind stitch. To know if your machine sews the blind stitch, look at either the machine's manual or on the machine itself. Most machines have diagrams showing what each stitch looks like. The blind stitch on this machine looks like this or this, and on my fancy machine it looks like this. It's a few straight dashes and then a triangle pointing to the left. You may want to double check the manual as some other stitches look similar. The blind stitch requires a presser foot with a wide opening here. This allows the needle to jump to the left. This is a standard presser foot or zigzag foot. Many machine models have a special presser foot just for the blind stitch, and it has a guide built into it. The guide keeps the fabric lined up correctly when sewing. And on this foot, the guide is adjustable, but you can use a zigzag foot. Unfortunately, I cannot show all the feet for all the different machines because they do vary by machine and I don't have those machines. But if your machine offers this stitch, it will tell you which presser foot to use with it. The machine blind stitch is formed by sewing down a little ways on the hem, and then it jumps to the left for one stitch, and that catches the tiny bit of the garment. In order to do this, the hem is folded a second time back onto the garment in a specific way that I'm about to show you. So this is your hem. It's folded and ironed. The machine blind stitch can be used for a hem with a folded raw edge like this, or a hem that is folded only once and has a finished raw edge. This could be an overcast edge, a zigzag stitch, or a bound edge. After your hem is folded up and pressed, you will fold it to the outer side or the right side of the garment, but you have to leave a little lip of the hem sticking out. Once folded, you could pin it in place, but don't put the pins too close to the fold or they will definitely be in the way when you go to sew it. So I read that you should hand baste this hem down, but I didn't find that necessary on these fabrics, but maybe if your fabric is slippery. You could also iron the new fold, but I know as you get more experienced, you won't need pins or basting. When the edge is clean finished, it's the same sort of fold. Your hem is folded to the wrong side, and then it's flipped back to the right side, leaving the top edge of the hem sticking out. This stitch is typically used with a 1 inch or more wide or deep hem. And because the fold is key to using this stitch, let me show you again on some printed fabric. It's easier to see because it has an obvious right and wrong side. So my hem is folded and pressed up, and I've overcast the raw edge. Then I flip it to the right side of the garment, but I leave the top edge of the hem sticking out. And this little extension is about 3/8 inch or 1 centimeter to no narrower than 1/4 of an inch wide. And then let me show you from the side. Here's the hem folded up, then flip to the right side and leave an extension. Here's the hem, here's the right side of the fabric. Okay, to sew the stitch, place the garment so the bulk of it is to the left of the needle. The wrong side is up and the hem extension is to the right. The hem is underneath. If your foot has a guide, the guide will line up with the fold and the extension will be the only fabric that is underneath the right side of the presser foot or to the right side of the guide. It's nice if your extension, the fabric extension, is the same width as that side of the presser foot. Then you can use that as a guide too. Then select the blind stitch on your machine. So every machine or manual will tell you what stitch settings to select when using the blind stitch. These are suggestions only. Think of them as a place to start. Because with this stitch, you must sew a sample or test to get the stitch settings right each time. Because the thickness of your fabric makes a significant difference with this stitch. So you're going to start with the suggested stitch settings and test on a scrap of the same fabric or on the project itself. You're going to stitch a couple of inches and then check. Don't get carried away. Definitely check after a couple of inches. Are the stitches catching the hem? So only 2 of my 4 stitches caught. So I need to increase the width of my stitch to catch the garment. If the stitch is too wide, you'll catch too much of the garment layer, creating very large stitches on the outside of the garment. So let me show you what it will look like when the stitch set is too wide. See how visible the stitch is on the outside when it's too wide? So when this happens, you need to narrow the stitch width. So you're going to play around with the settings to find the sweet spot, catching it but not being too big. And I will tell you, matching thread really helps. You can also adjust the stitch length, and this will spread the catching stitches either further apart if you make it longer, or if you make the stitch length shorter, it'll bring them closer together for a sturdier hem. When you're sewing, use your left hand to guide the fabric and your right hand to hold and manipulate the fold. Learning how to handle the fabric is important to the success of this stitch. The fold of the fabric should skim along the guide of the presser foot. It should not be scrunched up against it, which is actually easier said than done. If you notice a section where the stitch didn't catch, simply go back and sew over that area again. There's no need to take out any missed stitches since they're not visible on the outside anyway. When you want to take out the test stitches, simply pull on the bobbin thread, and when it comes out, the top thread will be released. So I sewed my skirt hem with matching thread, and you really don't see the stitches. You do see a crease from the fold though, and ironing the fabric should take that right out. I'm really glad I tried this stitch because this invisible hem was so much faster than hemming by hand. On this sample, I used contrasting thread on this end, and you really cannot see the stitches, just 2 little orange stitches here. And when your fabric has some texture to it, the stitches are really hidden. Here is where the stitch width was set too wide, resulting in these ladder-like stitches. The stitch length was also shortened, so there are a lot of stitches close together. You can see here the different stitch lengths, further apart on the black fabric and close together on the blue fabric. So most importantly, always test, always test the stitches on your fabric and make adjustments because every fabric will need a different adjustment. And folding the fabric correctly, controlling it as it goes under the needle, plays a major role in this stitch. The machine blind stitch is one of these easy to learn and a little more effort to master type of things, but it's totally worth the effort of learning. And if you use matching thread, you'll have a little more room for error. I certainly like the sound of that. It's great to learn something new, isn't it? Especially something so useful. Thank you so much for your suggestions and inspiration. I sure hope I can pass some of that along. If you have any questions about the machine blind stitch, please put it in the comments below and I'll be sure to reply. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.